This is episode 105 of the Beyond Social Media Show. My charming co-host Dave Erickson has the day off, and I have the privilege of having Ray Hiltz as my co-host today. Good morning, Ray. How are you?
I'm doing great, and thank you so much. I'm enjoying this internship. So I hope I hope I get the job at the end. So we'll have to do. Maybe I'll have to spike something at Dave's drink or something on.
So I think you'll be fine. Ray is the producer of Ray's Lunch Bunch on Tuesdays at 12:15, which is on summer hiatus, but is doing right now doing reruns of shows that we've done in the past. So 12:15. What is lined up for this Tuesday?
This Tuesday, and I'm so happy you asked because now I have to search. I just put it up. Let me think. Oh, it's who's do you call yourself an expert? It was one of our really good shows. There was a lot of opinions expressed, and digs into the whole thing about marketing and whether you should call yourself an expert or let other people do that for you.
That was an interesting show, and that was fun. I have fun on your show every week, and I learn something every week from all the smart people who are part of it. So the format of Beyond Social Media Show is that we cover the best and the worst in digital communications in the past week. We also bring you some shiny new objects, and Dave usually brings you stats, and actually Ray has some that we'll bring to you at the end of the show. But I get the honor always of starting with the worst, and I think what's worse this week is the issue of freebooting on Facebook, which is people are taking YouTube videos, downloading them as MP4s, and then uploading them to Facebook. And they're basically robbing the creators, some of whom have millions of followers on Facebook, of they're plagiarizing the videos and taking credit for them, and they're stealing them, and then the creators don't get their share of the ad revenue, which can really be sizable when videos go viral. And several of the people who've complained about this say they've actually mortgaged their houses and put their, paid their mortgages and put their kids through college with their YouTube videos. And CNET reports that two services, one called PeakVid and the other called KeepVid, are designed respectively to aggregate and index copyrighted YouTube content and to allow the users to rip the content and then use them. So Joe Hansen of It's Okay to Be Smart says it's not the same thing as sharing. I'm a huge fan of sharing. Sharing is what the web is built on, and there's nothing wrong with that, assuming that it's done with attribution. And that's the conversation that needs to be had. Freebooting is piracy. It's copyright infringement. It's stealing. And so he gave the example of Destin Sandlin. He's the creator of the YouTube channel Smarter Every Day, and his video, which is really fascinating video, tattooing close up in slow motion, was illegally downloaded from YouTube, which is really easy to do, and then uploaded to Facebook. And it was done by Zoo Magazine. Don't Google that. And it was what they did was they removed the part that had the copyright information, that had his name, that had his sponsor, and he can't tell exactly how much he lost on it, but it had already had 18 million non-YouTube views when he even found out about it, because you can't search Facebook to find content for videos. So he didn't know about it till somebody told him that it was there. So this is just wrong. This has to end. And, Facebook needs to do something about it, and I certainly hope that'll be soon.
Well, I did hear that they were doing something, or trying to do something about it, but they're so complicit in this because they make a direct embedding of videos on Facebook so attractive, with the autoplay and the bigger screen and all that it encourages people to do that, because otherwise, if you upload a YouTube video, all you get is a thumbnail, and it's you don't even notice it.
And it's not likely to be spread. They have an algorithm that doesn't allow it to be spread to as many of your followers as if it's native video in Facebook. So clearly there's a war going on, and the winner is not going to be the video creator on YouTube, and that's really a shame. So you came up with a really interesting story about what happens as a result of being on Twitter. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, I came across this article in the New York Times, and it was about it's from Haley Mlotek. So I imagine that's Mlotek, and she's from Toronto, and she was looking for an apartment in New York. And so she did the listings and all that, and then she was surprised when she found that many of these people were asking her for a Twitter handle. And she's a millennial, and what I found really interesting about this article was that it gave me a real kind of like a peep into the head of a millennial. I only know them by surface. I don't. All my kids are grown up and they're all gone, so I don't have a day-to-day rapport with millennials. But what's interesting that she was actually surprised that the landlords weren't just doing a Google search for her name and checking to see what she's done all over the thing. They specifically asked her for a Twitter handle, and she said that really put her kind of aback, and she had to go back to her Twitter feed and see what she's been posting and all that. And she said, for millennials, we don't think about that. We don't think anybody cares about what we put online. And so when she actually went to the apartment and she was going to, and she asked the landlord, "Oh, should we sit down and get to know each other?" And the landlord said, "Well, no, I know you. I've been following you on Twitter." So I just thought that was really interesting. That we've talked about social media and human resources using it, for hiring people, but it's every part of our lives are affected. We have no privacy anymore. So that's just that was interesting. And what's more interesting again was the fact that she never gave it a second thought. People of our generation are very cognizant of privacy, but there's a generation out there that don't think about it twice at all, and it's changed the way we just do things.
Well, I tell my friends who say they don't want to be on Twitter because of privacy and on social media because of privacy, I say, you have no privacy. The day you got your first credit card, you gave up your privacy. The day you got your first telephone and you got on all those mail lists, there isn't any privacy. We don't live our lives in private anymore. And people say, "Oh, Facebook took my privacy." Wrong, you gave it away. And I just don't think that it's a big deal. But what I do think is fascinating in the generational difference is what you'll share. I mean, I am aware of the fact that people do read what I share, and millennials just don't care. Just don't care. And generations, above, below, some do, some don't. But something else happened on Twitter this week that was more than a little bit weird, and that is that Twitter suddenly and without notice just disappeared the background images, not your profile photo, your avatar, but what was the background of your page. Now it's completely white, and blindingly so. And I saw this story with Sean Paul Wood in Adweek, and I also saw it in TechCrunch. And TechCrunch said the reason none officially given, but the possibility is definitely that they want more control of the ad display experience. So no big surprise there. Twitter's got to make money. Stock isn't doing it. And I'm not selling my 3 shares, though.
I think they just pimp themselves out to Google and be done with it. It was shocking because I didn't hear about it until I actually went to my Twitter page.
Like, what's wrong? And you look at it and you go, "What's wrong with my Twitter page?" You don't realize right away, and then you go to the next one. Oh, and it just happened. They just did it overnight. Gone, bye.
And as you said, BL, I mean, think of the money that people invested in branding and graphic artists and all that to make sure that your Twitter page is attractive, right?
There are businesses that exist to create the pages on Twitter, and those people, they're out of luck. I mean, but what we were talking about before the show, and we've talked about this a lot, is you should not invest your identity in someone else's platform. The identity that you own is your website, and you own your blog, and that's all you own. Everything else is rented. And people that don't realize that are in for a surprise, and they're going to be rude ones. That's all there is. And so one of the DW Sin said, so Twitter's decided to change all their profiles to a white background. The same thing MySpace did right before they went down in flames.
So anyway, I want to make sure people out there are writing that down, that you don't own these platforms. The only one you do own is your website and blog. So
it's absolutely true. So I just want to say one thing. It appears that Comment Tracker is working today. We are seeing comments. So if you'd like to make some, feel free, and we'll note them. So that actually brings us to better news, and Ray and I disagree on this one, but Huffington Post announced this week that they're not going to cover Donald Trump as in politics. Danny Shea, editorial director, and Ryan Grimm, their Washington bureau chief, together said, after watching and listening to Donald Trump since he announced his candidacy for president, we've decided we won't report on Trump's campaign as part of the Huffington Post political coverage. Instead, we will cover his campaign as part of our entertainment section. Our reason is simple. Trump's campaign is a sideshow. We won't take the bait. If you're interested in what the Donald has to say, you'll find it next to our stories on the Kardashians and the Bachelorette. I think that's a fabulous development because I think he is the most irrelevant man in America. I pray that he will run for office because it will be a sideshow. And I think their decision is great. I wish other media would follow them.
Yeah, as you said, I totally disagree. I think it's not the place of a journalist or a media company to say what is and what is not political. Donald Trump, as much as you may think he's a fool, he's a bona fide candidate. I mean, he signed the papers, he's a politician, and there are people who he resonates with. So I think by doing that, they're abdicating their responsibility as a media company because it is political, it is news, and whether you like it or not, or whether you think he's a buffoon or not, is not your place in terms of reporting that news.
Whose place is it?
We mean whose place is it?
Well, I mean, if the news media decide not to cover something, then it's not news anymore. I mean, do you have to take somebody seriously who's so incendiary? I really think their decision was a good one. You don't give him a forum for the kinds of things that he's doing that are so hateful, and then perhaps he'll calm down.
Oh, well, where do we draw that line? I mean, we shouldn't be broadcasting anything ISIL does as well because it's hateful and it's gross and all that, but the media covers that all the time. I mean, Trump is a candidate and he's running, and people are, he's top of the polls right now at 24% or whatever, so people are following him. So I think it's the media company's responsibility to report on that. I don't think, again, they're putting their personal bias in front of their responsibility as a journalist.
I see your point. I still think he's a buffoon.
Well, and I think everybody has the right to feel that way. I just think that people have to. I think he should be exposed for being a buffoon. And if you just put him back in the Kardashians, then he's only going to be exposed to people who follow Kardashians, rightfully so, perhaps.
Well, you know what? A lot more people follow the Kardashians than follow politics.
But the point is, he does make a difference in the political, arena, and I think he should report it as a candidate until he falls out or he becomes president.
Well, God forbid. On to better news. There is a really quite extraordinary campaign in an ad that illustrates what consumers can and not bring into a Kroger store, and it urges a boycott. And it's from a group called Moms Demand Action on Gun Sense in America. And it shows in this commercial, which I came upon via Amy Core, who writes for Media Post, it shows what you can bring into Kroger's. You can't bring skateboards, you can't bring water pistols, you can bring an assault rifle, and it can be strapped to your back, and you can check out as though nothing was happening because it is legal to carry a weapon openly, and that is really frightening. So the way that they did this commercial, which I got from Media Post, is just so, it makes it so clear why we need to address the issue of gun control in this country. And I believe that you have addressed this issue better in Canada than we have here. Is that correct?
Well, I can't even begin to get my head around that. Yes, we have strict gun control here, but I mean, I don't want to sound smug. I mean, but everybody else in the world has strict gun control pretty well, right? I mean,
except us.
Except the United States, who are so far ahead in terms of people killing each other. But the fact that you can carry AKAs into a store or concealed weapons, it's beyond my experience. I don't know, and unless I think you get a handle on this NRA thing and how they control the government, and nothing's going to change. And every day, I was saying before in the green room that I have a friend who lives in Florida, and she says, I can't stand it. Every day I open up the paper and someone else is getting murdered, manyfold, and nothing's being done about it. Something's got to shake up somewhere, you know.
Nothing's being done, and I seriously doubt anything's going to be done in this country. It's really frightening.
Well, you know what I find BL, what I find disturbing is that this Second Amendment thing. It's like fundamentalist religions of any type, whether it's Muslim or Christian or whatever else. You know, they always hold the Bible as it. That's it. But they all misinterpret the Bible as well to do horrific things. And Americans, and I'll say this generally because I have some really good American friends, but Americans look at this Constitution as the Bible, and the Second Amendment is misinterpreted. It was written in the 17th thing when there was a threat from Britain, and it was to make sure that no one was left unarmed to protect the country. That's been morphed into this, like, everybody has to protect yourself from your neighbor, you know. And I think that's the problem. It's fundamentalism. You know, it's this religion of the Constitution.
It's interesting to hear the point of view of somebody who's not an American, because it's so clear to many of us that that's correct. And yet, there in this country, the sentiment is strongly in favor of not having gun control. It makes no sense. It's not rational. But anyway, on to more rational things. Google made an announcement this week. You know, the media, talk about what the media like to cover and not cover. The media loves the link bait of saying that GooglePlus is dead, and those of us who use it on a daily basis, you and I included, know that there are many things about it that are really quite extraordinary. One of them is not the fact that many of us have more than one profile. Many of us have more than one page. We would like to get rid of them. We have more than one YouTube channel. And what happened at the beginning, I was a very early adopter of Google+. I have many email addresses via Google. And as a result, I have several profile pages, and Google initially created a local page for every business apparently on the planet, and the businesses didn't know about it, and so a lot of those pages are not used. Well, there's no surprise there, and a lot of people's extra profiles aren't used because we don't want them and there's no way to get rid of them. So what Google announced is that they are shutting down inactive local and business pages next week, and that's terrific. You know, that's a good development, because what will happen is the active pages, and we'll finally get some numbers, and the numbers will be big. The active pages and the active users will be able to be seen. And the pages that aren't used don't need to be there, and they'll go away. That's fine with me. What do you think?
I think that's an excellent choice. I think it's very smart, because one of the problems with Google from the beginning was the complexity, and it was so hard to get your head around. And I had so many people telling me that, I don't know, you know, I mean, I can't find the person I want. It's all the same person, but I don't know where to, you know, I don't know where to get them or how to invite them or whatever else. And you have these pages, and there was a huge confusion in the early days about Google Places, Google Local, Google Plus Local, and then, you know, now it's Google My Business. Hopefully that'll be a step in clarifying that. Do you mind if I highlight a comment here?
Go ahead.
First of all, I want to do this one here from Jim, because you need all the validation you can get, BL. So I agree with BL. So I agree with BL on the Trump issue, Ray, and Beyond the Media show. And Andrew says here, when we're Americans are irrational. Now, Andrew, I hope you have a lot of friends, because I think you've lost a few perhaps with that comment. and one last one from Michael Thomas, who says, I agree with you, Ray Hiltz. The Second Amendment has been absolutely misused and desecrated, morphed to fit radical agendas. Thank you, Michael.
Now, you see, Ray, Comment Tracker is giving you those, and it's not giving them to me. Comment Tracker just does not like me.
Oh,
that's all there is. You see it, and I don't. Why the hell is that? That is so weird.
Well, I kind of fix it so that you invite me again on the show.
To do the Comment Tracker. So Domino's Pizza, who is now calling themselves Domino's instead of Domino's Pizza, has enabled ordering pizza by texting emojis, and you can order Domino's with emojis, a tweet, text, smartwatch, Ford Sync, Samsung Smart TV, and they're adding more all the time. So you have to create a pizza profile with your address and payment info, and Domino's estimates that about 40% of Americans don't understand emojis. So the brand and their agency, Crispin Porter and Bogosky, I love them, have created a website for emoji literacy that explains to non-millennials just what all those symbols are. It is hilarious.
That's the site for me.
Really?
I just don't pay attention to emojis. And I thought you had said Domino's Pizza had changed their name to Domino's. No,
they did. They did.
Domino's?
They changed their name to Domino's instead of Domino's Pizza.
No, Domino's. I thought D-U-M.
Oh. No, they say they're more than pizza, but you know, look at all the signs they have to change, and look at all the boxes they have to change, and all the menus they have to change. Sometimes I just don't understand what big companies do, and this is definitely one of those. What's wrong with being Domino's Pizza? I mean, yeah. But the thing, you have to watch the video explaining emojis because it's quite hilarious. And they also have these downloadable emoji cards so that you can refer to them when you're talking to your kids.
Oh my God. That's like all the acronyms, you know, for texting and all that. I have a little card next to me going, ROFL. All those things. Well, I have the basics, but now they've gotten really complicated.
They have. They really have. They're really quite funny. So you have, talking about emojis and what we spend our time doing, you have one about YouTube that's quite interesting.
Yeah, you know, we know that video is everything nowadays. I mean, everybody's pushing video, how to do video, and the fact that video gets more eyeballs and all that. And actually, and that people actually don't like to read. Go figure, you know. But Omid Kordestani, I guess, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce his name. He's the chief business officer for Google. Says that the average YouTube session now is over 40 minutes. So that's
on the phone?
On the mobile. On mobile.
Wow. People have really good batteries.
That's true. I never thought that's true. Yeah, 40 minutes. That's a long time, and that's an average, right? I mean, so some people are spending an awful lot of time on mobile, and that's which takes me to another thing which I didn't tell you about. Actually, it's an app this week, and I think in response to this is that Google released at first the Android app, and now the iOS app was released yesterday. It's an update to YouTube that will automatically stretch out those vertical videos. You know how people take videos and you landscape, but you forget and you take a video, and then when you're watching it, it's like, you know, two huge black bars and the skinny thing.
Does it distort it, or it doesn't?
It fills up the screen. So I'm not. I haven't seen it in action. I just downloaded it yesterday, but it fills up the screen, so you don't have to. You don't get those two big black bars.
Well, I had that conversation last week with Michael Chong, who I had lunch with, and he said that social media has made the landscape view something that you absolutely have to do all the time. So you do kind of wonder when cameras are going to tilt that way.
Well, everything's landscape, right? I mean, yeah. from TV, from movies, from your monitor, everything's that way. So, yeah. So I think this is a good move.
We'll put the app link in the show notes, right?
Yeah, sure, for sure.
Yeah. So actually, I don't have any shiny new stuff, but you do, and you were telling me about one before. You were talking about Topsy.
Oh yeah, well you use this, Ebony. I did not until you told me, and it's great. I mean, it's one of those, we collect so many tools, and sometimes they just collect rust in the toolbox, and then someone reminds you, like in this week it was Ian Cleary, who I recommend highly if you're into the latest apps and tools. To follow him, Ian Cleary. We'll put the link for him. But it's Topsy, and Topsy basically allows you to search. Topics, by people, by Twitter handles,
by hashtags.
By hashtags. It's a great source if you want to build lists, find influencers, find topics to write about. So I recommend that highly.
I use Topsy every day, and you can use it to look up conversations in the last 24 hours, in the last week, in the last couple of days, and you get links directly to it. But I've noticed something that is really irritating lately on different sites. When you want to share something, you're not getting the URL at the top of a post. You have to click on share and then get the link from there if you want to share it. And of course, if you want to share it from a website and you want to also share an image, which exponentially increases the way that your tweet is received, you have to do several steps. I don't know when or why that happened. Have you noticed that?
I did, and I find it's really cumbersome now, and
Yeah.
every platform does it a bit different, it seems. So what I do because I have a buffer and a hootlet toolbar on my browser, on my Chrome. So it used to be that when you clicked on, say, hootlet or buffer, your share window would come up and everything would be there. Sometimes now that's not the case.
Yeah.
And again, if you want to share the photo because you want images in your tweet stream, I have to download the photo from the blog post
Exactly.
and then put it in manually into the tweet.
I don't know what that's about or who thought that was a good idea, but I think it stinks. So, that brings us actually to the end of episode 105 of the Beyond Social Media Show. Dave Erickson will be back next week, and we will timestamp this video, include a link to all of the topics we discussed in the playlist that will be on the BeyondSocialMediaShow.com blog. Online, you can find Ray at Plus Ray Hiltz on GooglePlus. You can find him at rayhiltz.com. You can find him on YouTube. You can find him. Where else can we find you, Ray?
Just Google Ray Hiltz, so you'll find me.
He's all over the place. I'm at What's Next on Twitter. My blog is what'snextblog.com. I am the CEO of maximum-plus.com for all things YouTube and Google+. Dave Erickson is at DErickson on Twitter. He's eStrategyBlog.com. Google him. You'll find him all over the place. Dave is a content machine. We will be back next week, and we thank you so much for watching today. Same time, same station, next Saturday.